Okay, guys, welcome to the first CF podcast. Today with me, I have Flair.
Hi.
We have Sporty as well.
Hello, guys.
Kiver.
Hey.
And also the other fraud called Lean right here.
Hey ho.
So today we're going to be expressing our main thoughts and ideas and our predictions for this Splatoon 2 metagame at the very beginning of the game after this the Splatfest we got to try this weekend. So guys, just go ahead and what were your feelings and thoughts after the first Splatfest?
Alright, my impression from the Splatfest is pretty good so far. I experienced much less lag as in the previous game. For example, when there was an inkjet at me shooting, I could evade it with my dodge rolls, or I could just run around it without being hit. In Splatoon 1 I would have gotten a latency kill, but here it was really fluent. I was really surprised, and except for a few strange lags, it was actually super cool.
You said there was no lag. What do you think about those weird quick super jump? Not quick super jumps, actually, just straight up super jump arrows. Do you think that was latency or just a change in how the game handles the UI?
Yeah, first to explain, when we saw a super jump arrow, it didn't go down from the beginning, but instead it was staying at the maximum for 1 second, and then it started to go down. And it really messed up with my predictions sometimes. Yeah, I only saw it in this testfire, and I think it's just a new feature. And if that's the case, it's just a matter of how to get used to it. And yeah, so it was strange at the beginning, but if it's normal, then it's pretty easy to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
With the test fire, it all looked really visually nice. I played in docked mode and in tabletop mode. However, I will note that in tabletop mode, even though you're still using the Pro Controller, the screen means sniping is really difficult.
Yeah, I tried the same at the hotel, which is even worse with hotel.
Yeah, trying to track people in the ink, it's difficult. It took a while to get used to it, and it just messed me up. But on the actual controller itself, I'm starting to prefer it over the gamepad. It's just easier to move around. I can make faster movements with it. It feels much better. But I didn't get any lag or disconnections from during a game. However, I did, when we were actually searching for players, I did get lobby disconnections a bit, which was weird.
Were you getting those weird disconnections that had that crazy cringy message, or just regular disconnection?
No, just a regular one, but the one weird thing is when people try to rejoin the squad who were randomly kicked out of it, you're not able to join these people. So I don't know what that was. But again, with what Lean said, there's actually very little lag. I felt I could effectively snipe a inkjet without the fear of something happening and getting shot mid-air or something.
But the game is still P2P, right? Or is it P2? It's still P2P, right? It's not P2 server.
Yes, it's still P2P.
Yeah.
Still.
So server would always be better, but it's working so far.
Okay, that's good to see. Actually, putting the lag aside, Kiver, you experienced the game at Japan Expo as well, so you played a LAN already. So what are your thoughts?
How to say? Well, I really like it. I prefer it over Splatoon 1 first. It's more fluid and stuff. But for example, for Outtakes, I feel like I don't know how to say it, but it's really slower. Like on 1v1s, I was expected it to be faster like on Splatoon 1, but on Splatoon 2 it's more slower. And yeah, you have to use more your subs like burst bombs for stand attack or anything your sub specials. But yeah, I really like it. And also about the run speed, I feel like it's nerfed. Personally, I really feel like it's nerfed compared to Splatoon 1. I was moving more slower. On Splatoon 2 while using it, so I just prefer using swim speed or ink resistance. I definitely think it was better for me.
The run speed nerfs make me happy because I hate people that run speed tic-tac. So that aside, you said like you felt the game was slower, had a slower pace. So do you think that is because of how big and wide and open the maps are? Or is it, I feel like it's lack of experience as well. What'd you say on that?
I would say both. First, lack of experience, because I only play it for, I would say 10 hours overall, whereas on Splatoon there are at least 3,000. But yeah, I think it's also the lack of experience. It's sure it's more fluid, but I still have many things to learn, and maybe more we play, more we find it was faster in the end and not slower. We'll see it.
But I had the same feeling. I also felt it felt like slower than before. Although the motion controls were very good with the Pro controller, so I can really recommend it. You have much more control in 1v1s than you would have with other controllers.
In relation to the speed of people, when they jumped about the ink, it did make it easier to snipe them. If they weren't able to run at me at such a pace, obviously adding run speed abilities will make that harder. But at this Splatfest itself, it did mean backing up and sniping someone while they continually shot at you was easier to get.
So basically we have new specials like no Krakens and no Bubble, no Echo or anything else, but instead more normal specials or static specials that you can't use when moving except for the inkjet or the baller, but nothing that will make you really invisible for a certain time. And we don't have the old quick respawn, so this is also why it feels slower and not that fast as before, because we were playing in quick respawn meta game in the last few months where everything was super fast in respawning, and you just jump there, you're back in like 5 seconds, and now you have to wait for 10 seconds to even respawn.
You actually have to wait the right time now, which is, I was like, the first match is like, wait, I didn't remember Splatoon takes so much after you die.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on? What happened to the game? Did they just change stuff? I don't know, man.
Do you personally think that's good or it's bad?
It's both good and bad, personally, because at a certain in a certain extent, until people figure out how to play the game well enough, it's gonna be like Kiver said. The game's gonna be feeling slower. It's gonna be sluggish. It's gonna be probably a little bit more boring as well for quite a little bit, I think, until people get the hang of it. But on the other hand, it actually gives the right value to kills and coordination and specials, because in the current state of Splatoon 1, you know, with all the quick respawn going around.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's the right way we are going. We are talking about staying alive and getting map control the normal way, and not when you're just going in and you die and you jump back in again, and when you are lucky, you have about like 5 times and you split one and you have more control all of a sudden.
Yeah, and this is especially something that you can obviously talk about, because being a Dynamo main in Splatoon 1, and as you said, you're like, you said earlier before the podcast commenced, but you're already looking forward to trying to Dynamo out in Splatoon 2. And on this subject, what are your thoughts, and already on the Dynamo? We've seen the kits. What do you think about them?
I think the Dynamo is even more a support weapon than we supposed to be in Splatoon 1. Of course, it got nerfed in Splatoon 1, but I think now, and the additional vertical flick you have much more tricks upon your sleeve, and you have way more versatility to use the Dynamo as a support player. But you also can go a bit more aggressive when you have the right timing. So you can support your teammates most of the time. I think especially with the buff for their, what are they called? Our ink mines. They got the buff they needed. And I think that's really good for Dynamo. When you have a bit more of control, you can slightly go forward, place 1 or 2 ink mines in some positions and go back a little bit. And if the enemy is coming closer to you, they are getting punished for it. So I think the Dynamo is a really good backup weapon, and when the right player is playing his role right, he can be pretty valuable for any team.
I think it's gonna be also like centered on ink efficiency this time around instead of quick respawn.
Yeah, definitely. I was changing my kit even in Splatoon 1 to a bit more ink efficiency, because I noticed sometimes I played too defensive and stay alive a lot more than other Dynamos do. When you only got killed like 4 times, you don't need that much of quick respawn, and I think that's the way how you play it in Splatoon 2, definitely.
The game is also encouraging you to use more ink saver main, because in Splatoon 2, one of the new additions to the weapons is that ink saver main gives different effect on different weapons. For example, for Splattershot Junior or the normal Splattershot, it behaves normally like we are used to. And then for weapons like the Eliter, the Dynamo, or the Splattershot Pro, it is more efficient, so you don't need that much ink saver main to have to save more ink. So Nintendo is basically encouraging you to use more ink saver main to flick more. So this is actually what I also think is good for the Dynamo as a support weapon.
Yeah, I noticed that in the Splatfest with the normal Splat roller. I had the feeling, okay, the buff is not working for running faster when you're just rolling over and over again. I think when does the speed running effect come in play? Like 5 seconds after it, I think. But when you are faster in rolling, your ink saver is already done. So it didn't make any sense in the Splatfest. I think almost like every normal Splat roller should play it as well.
Kiv, I heard you do some moans. I think those were moans of disagreement. Is it because you disagreed with the ink efficiency part?
No, it's just like on Splatoon 1. At first you think it's really useful, you will get your ink really quickly, but at some point, you'll just get used to that. It just depends on your gameplay, to be honest. Like, if you're a girl, you will need it, you definitely need it for rushing and stuff. And just in case someone is behind you, you have to turn around, and yeah, if you have no ink, you're dead. But if you play a bit more defensive or all around, I don't really think you will need it.
Okay.
Because you will take time. You will take time to analyze the things, like if I should go on left or on right, if I should do that and that. Like, there are many things. You have more time to think in Splatoon 2, in my opinion.
On the topic of the first impressions, what did you think of the maps?
I have a mixed feeling on most maps, honestly. Like, what was it? Starfish main stage and the Art Academy one? I really like those. With every weapon I tried, I think I tried maybe not the roller actually, but I really enjoyed them. There's mid control was really fun. People could push into your spawn and you could push into their spawn. So there was aggression on every part of the map. The sides were really important to keep in mind of. Yeah, and while on the other maps, I wasn't really a fan of Mori still. I preferred it in the first game for some reason, because I like the way the close sneaky works, how tight it is, and how jam-packed it is. And I kind of I have a mixed feeling again on Humpback Pump Track, because it just feels like a weird stage. And I have to play it more to actually understand it completely.
I think Humpback Bump Track, in my opinion, is like a bit like Flounder Heights. It's not that high, but this map is really, really wide open, and you have like the one middle part, and now you have the outer ring, which is a little bit higher than the middle. But really, really wide open.
I think it'll be really interesting on how stuff like Splat Zones works there, as
sure, yeah.
You'll be able to I know old maps didn't have really one way to the zone, but there was one primary way that you normally went to get to the middle quick.
That map has like a million ways.
Yeah.
Has a million ways.
Even as a charger, for example, trying out that map, I hated the middle, because even though you have an elevation and you can see around you, there are so many ways to check. It's so scary, and how quickly they rush up to you. There's no time. You have to try and leave a bomb and just find your best way out of there.
I think it's a pretty bad charger weapon.
Yeah, it's a bad charger map.
When we are talking about chargers, do you feel the chargers got nerfed?
Yeah, more or less.
For sure.
There's no damage anymore and no defense, so that's one good thing on the one hand, but also a bad thing on the other hand. Also, what's really sad about scope chargers is that they got nerfed to death, basically. The only reason we should use them before was because they had 10% more range than the old unscoped variant, and now it's only a fixed 20 points more. So in the old Splatoon 1 trainings room, 50 points were the distance between two lines, and only 20 points more is basically nothing. And the unscoped chargers also have the holding mechanic, which is really, really nice. And yeah, so I don't really see a reason to use a scope charger anymore, except on maps like Moe, where you need every bit of range. But other than that, I can't really see unscoped chargers dominating.
I think, like, on what you said on damage, Lean, I think that damage was also a huge boon for the scopes instead of the unscopes. Because with the unscopes, you can just keep your charge, even in the main one, even if there's no swim mechanic. While with the scoped chargers, the scope, when it zooms in, is just an extra boon to your damage up. So basically, you can go for the quick scopes. Basically, the target, you can see the target more clear. It's easier to hit the target, and damage up helps on that. Without damage up, it's gonna be super weird because you'll be locked into the small visual, and you're just gonna be with a restricted field of view. While with the other one.
Yeah, as we are talking about it, shouldn't it be favoring you, Lean, for the Squiffer? Because you can charge, you can throw and then release it again.
Yes,
is it exactly your playstyle you're playing?
In theory, yes. There's also this new GoTuber that can hold the charge much longer than the other chargers, and it also kills with one direct hit, like the Squiffer or the Splat Charger. And I can really see myself using either Squiffer or GoTuber. For the Squiffer, we don't really have any information yet, as they're not part of the launch weapon set. But for the GoTuber so far, the set with suction bombs and splashdown looks really, really nice. It basically looks like my Fresh Squiffer.
Fresh Squiffer.
And it also has this longer hold keeper, but the downside of it, there's a charge time is really close to an E-liter, so it basically takes forever for it to charge.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I can really see that when chargers are used, they're used unscoped, and also with the new store mechanic.
It took a bit for me to remember that I didn't have a scope and to actually snipe again because I'd spent so long with the actual scope itself. The maps were a mixed bag for the charger. On Moray, technically there was a nerf to the actual charger as people can get up to the snipe much easier. However, in the actual inclines, it is pretty easy to take them out. If they don't catch you off guard or maybe swim speed, they are pretty much an easy target. With Starfish, it was a very weird charger map. There was that one area above the grating you could hold, but it was pretty easy to flank. Someone could easily get up there.
Yeah, especially on left side with the grates.
The flanks were really cool on that map.
Yeah.
It felt like a bigger version of Aravana Mall.
Yeah.
The bigger middle, but when you are controlling the close, it's almost the win.
Yeah. When someone gets around there undetected, suddenly you realise your backline's covered and they're actually coming up from both sides of the middle and not much you can do about it.
Going back to the hold mechanic, guys, I had a question that I've been having in mind for a little bit, but I haven't actually answered it because I obviously don't know because I'm dumb. Can other people see when you're holding the charge in ink?
You are glowing.
You're glowing.
Yes,
So,
that's
like,
the downside.
Yeah, but like with the GoTuber, for example, like it makes no sense to me. You just
only when you have control.
Yeah,
and
like I don't know. You just hold and charge, and you go in the ink, and you're just afraid to see where you are, and all the extras, cool, ultra mega super powers you'd have, they just go to hell because they can see you easily, and just boom, you're dead.
In theory, it sounds really bad, but I think we have to practice it to see the potential.
Yeah, sure.
You can even use the charge keeper on the rails on Mori Towers. I saw quite a few clips on Twitter for the testfire, where people just charged a shot, got through the rail, and then just jumped off and sniped the person on the other snipe or on the zone or something. That actually was pretty cool, and it can be quite gimmicky as well.
But the idea is nice, as well as like the other new weapons.
As far as gimmicks go, I think there's a lot of gimmicks being introduced into maps, which is something we didn't really see in Splatoon 1 except for like Anchovy, which everyone hated.
Mahi had also some gimmicks with the changing water level.
Oh, true, yeah, you're right. What did you guys like? Are you guys a fan of this? Or do you think it's better to just keep them simple and linear and plain?
I actually like the last 4 maps that were released. For example, on Pit, we had the gimmick with the conveyor belts that were sometimes pretty nice and sometimes pretty bad. And on Mahi,
I feel the times it just screws up.
On Mahi, I really liked the changing level, and Anchovy was kinda strange. You had this moving elevators and the outer elevators and stuff, and it was kinda strange to get used to.
Yeah, indeed.
And the new gimmicks with the sponges and rails, they're actually super nice, as they can be used by anyone, they can be changed by anyone, and they are really part of the actual game and not just their aesthetic thing that is always the same.
I'm actually really looking forward to the sponges, especially in like Rainmaker, because they could definitely spice up a lot of matches. And on this regard, as you guys know, there's going to be the Spectator mode coming into Splatoon 2. Are you guys excited for that? Or are you guys indifferent just because you intend to play the game more than you intend to watching it?
For tournaments themselves, I'm sure organisers will be a lot more excited than we are about this because they will have proper access. They won't struggle so much when they have to ask one person who will stream it and will be stuck with their perspective for the whole match. We can now move on and let's see what the charge is doing. Instead of just having a look and go, oh, this person did good, but obviously we didn't get to see that much. Now, if someone starts to do well, we can switch over to them and see what they're doing. And it will definitely make watching tournaments, the finals, a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a blessing.
Yeah, I agree.
There's also something else, where 2 spectator spots, and the spectators can also host the lobby. So if we have a grand finals and we want it to be as without problems, then we can just say, okay, we know this person has good internet, he should host as spectator, and this person should stream it as spectator. And then we are ready to go.
I also think another extra that you guys didn't touch it, maybe because I didn't really angle the question towards that specific thing, but I think it's gonna also have a really cool effect as far as coaching goes. Coaching is not something we see in Splatoon 1, but I think that with the spectator, the spectating possibilities, even during a scrim, it just becomes so much better to analyze instantly every single player's gameplay, even those who can't record.
That's a really big deal. I think that should be the 5th man behind the first team. So he is keeping the information and getting the advice to his other teammates.
Do you actually think this will be allowed in tournaments, that we have a 5th man who is giving support?
Actually, I don't think so.
Actually, it has to be. Actually, it has to be allowed.
But why? You can go just to a bird perspective and also see the opponents.
Yeah, and you see everyone.
And I think you can also just jump to the opponents. So you can just call them out where they're hiding and stuff.
I think maybe in scrims it'll be useful, but in actual tournament, I'm sure the tournament organizer will say it's not fair for one of your team to sit in VC and watch it and just say the charge is on Overlook, he's going down the ramp now, wait for it to snipe, or something like that. You can actually plan something out so well.
The question is if every team is doing this, is it possible?
Well,
I think it's not going to be allowed, but for scrims, definitely, just to analyze the mistakes and be like, guys, you should have done this. Kiver, you missed that kill. You went for the try-hard kill. You choked it. You lost us the game. Next time you better use fraud. Don't use the gas mask. Something watch it in mind.
Actually, in a LAN tournament, this could be super cool. When you have 4 players in one line and a big TV in front of you, where just the spectators, and it's always in bird perspective, so you just have to look up for all of you to see a big map. This would be like super cool.
You can also have both spectators going one Overlook, one switching between the players, and it allows such a range of view. It's really nice.
But coming back to the coaching stuff, I think that's pretty much normal when you look at other esports. Yeah. When we are talking about esports, like every good team has his own coach who is standing behind the first squad and is coaching. And I definitely could see this. I definitely could see this in Splatoon 2, because we got the tools now.
Also about spectators, I think it would have been good if Nintendo would put some delay. Like for example, if someone from a team joined the lobby and just spectate the game. It would be better if there are some seconds or 1 minute of delay compared to the game, so he can tell his teammates what the opponents are doing.
Yeah, it would.
That could be a good fix, Kiri. You're right. That could be a good fix. It would also, I think, it would put less stress on the host as well, because I imagine that having the delay as far as the extra perspective goes, it just adds less latency, less information to be shared. I don't know, don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert. Lean, you're the expert on this tech stuff for nerds.
Yeah, if you don't want to get all the information, and maybe it's better when you don't want to influence the game too much, and maybe you have one team which isn't doing voice chat at all, you have the instant advantage, etc.
Yep.
Yeah, that could be really a reason.
I think it wasn't. I think it's a little bit of an oversight of Nintendo. They haven't really. They've put it in there and they've said, "Oh look, we'll have 2, and it'll be really nice." But I don't think they look really deep into it from a perspective, even though they are slightly more marketing it competitive-wise this time. They haven't looked deep into it and thought, right, this person could be talking to this and explaining it. And maybe it will be a patch. Maybe if they see it in action themselves, they will actually get to notice, oh wait, this could be a problem. So we'll see what they do.
But now we have Kiver in the VC, so this is the perfect opportunity to change the topic to something we should also be speaking of right now, and that is abilities. And that reminds me of the gas mask. So, you guys know, there's some changes in abilities, as we already mentioned on some of them, and there's also changes to how the abilities relate to various pieces of gear, like the gas mask. Kiver, do you want to talk about how your gas mask set is going to be looking?
Well, about my gas mask. I was thinking, just in general, I'm thinking about using swim speed or any speed in general, but I'm also thinking about using a respawn punisher, because as a Slayer player, maybe it would be good. It would be good for him, like if he is able to chain kills, like kill most of people. Well, kill as much people as possible. It will be really good for the team, because opponents would take a lot of time for respawning, and it would be good for your team because they could push the tower or Rainmaker or just keep the zone more longer.
But then again, doesn't Respawn Punisher, which is one of the new abilities in Splatoon 2, doesn't also increase the amount you take, the user as well, to respawn?
Yeah, that's it as well. Well, in my opinion, it's just a risk. Like, if you're sure to get many kills, maybe you should take it. Or it could be also useful for chargers, like defensive chargers, to be honest. Because if they don't die a lot, they just have to kill as much people as possible, like Slayers. But they will still stay alive, and so it will be more better.
So basically, Kid, what you're saying is you're only going to be using Respawn Punisher against bad teams.
Nah, it will really depend on the map.
We already know that when you were going to be using the tournament's Respawn Punisher, it's an insult of the opposing team. It's already shots fired.
Nah. Well, right now I really don't know, but it will depend on maps. Like if there is a really close map, like I don't really know. I would say Starfish, for example. Like maybe on Starfish for maybe tower control, yeah. Maybe for Starfish Tower Control it would be good.
Yeah.
Maybe there are other maps, but I'm not sure. I don't have the game yet, so I can't tell.
Oh, you don't have the game yet? Bad for you. Back to the serious business. One of the abilities I'm looking forward the most to, especially for the splatling, it's gonna be Thermal Squid, which is one of the new abilities in Splatoon 2, which allows you to actually locate the people you hit, even with just a droplet of ink, meaning that with the splatling, when you're just firing to cover the most turf possible or just pressuring a certain lane, when you get those hits, those hit markers on people, you can actually not confirm the kill on because of how the splatling works and etc. You actually can locate them for yourself and for the meaning you can actually see where they're going and just become a valuable asset that not only gets assists and weakens them, but also locates your opponents in a metagame where the echolocator is not a special.
Yeah, that is probably the substitution for echolocator, but in a normal ability, in a gear ability. And I think that, as you said, that weapons that are mostly like support weapons have a pretty big influence on it. So like Splatlings, Dynamo Rollers, because they have really long range and paint really well. You just have to hit someone just randomly and they are marked. Maybe Sloshers as well. So I think there is a pretty good use for this ability.
I'm pretty sure we can also see the Arrow Spray RG with it. It has a pretty wide... Yes, really, it has a really wide spread, so it can ink good, and you just have to hit him once. It also has now sprinklers
I think there's
and a baller. So the baller is giving you some kind of protection, and with the explosion you can maybe just hit them with a droplet, and with the sprinkler you can also always hit them with a few droplets and see them. So it's actually a pretty nice support weapon now.
I think Sprinkler is actually a pretty good combination with this ability, because you just need a random hit from a Sprinkler who is running above someone.
Oh yeah, you're right, Sporty.
That's a pretty good combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about it.
So we can also see it on the 96 Gal with ink armor and sprinkler. So you can basically just ink armor all your teammates, put up a sprinkler, hit them somehow, and even have could survive one of their shots and know where they are for a second. This is also pretty valuable when pushing.
Yeah, this goes to show how many kits in Splatoon 2 already seem to be support oriented, which is something we didn't really, was overshadowed, I think, in Splatoon 1. I think out of the new weapons announced, there's a few that really jumped to my eyes, such as the Aerospray, as you said, the Splash-O-Matic, and the Jet Squelcher.
Yeah, the Jet Squelcher with Toxic Mist and Tenta Missiles is really, really great. It has the range, it has the Toxic Mist, and it even has a Pseudo Echo special.
Yeah, Flair, I know you use the Jet Squelcher a bit. Are you actually looking forward to this new jet? You literally main everything. So...
I moved around so many weapons. The reason I left Jet Squelcher was behind was the evolving quick respawn meta. It caused it so many problems. The kit for me was, a bit of swim speed for movement and the sub-save for the triple burst bomb. The issue was that I didn't have enough space in my build of it for the quick respawn, so seeing it come back and the quick respawn effectively gone means that the Jet Squelcher looks like it can do its job. It will be less for the quick range kills due to its no burst bombs, but it can actually do its support version of it much better. Definitely looks like something I will definitely look into.
Yeah, if we look back at the very, very early stages of the Splatoon 1 metagame, I remember the Jet Squelcher with players like Sly just dominating the scene as a support weapon. And then as soon as we saw the shift into the wall metagame, and then progressively, the metagame shifting towards quick respawn, the Jet Squelcher found itself into two metagames where it struggled to find a use. But now with this new kit and the new game, it could definitely just find its new place to shine in,
Yeah, it has new possibilities, definitely.
I think the duel, unless it's gonna get a cool kit in Splatoon 2, it's still gonna be outclassed, because it's the same range as a Splattershot Pro in like the 96, but those weapons just completely destroy it.
The duel is also not set for release, and I don't think they will include it, because like you said, it just get outshadowed by too many weapons.
Only Jode could use it, the god himself, with the Dual Sculpture god.
I just for completion, I do want it to come back. It would be nice just to see it again, even if it does end up getting sidelined. But they could always give it a really useful kit, and even if it is not as good as other weapons, its kit can definitely pull it forward.
Oh,
so,
indeed.
Like the H3 Cherry?
Oh,
yeah.
Probably.
A weapon like the H3 we laughed at for so much of Splatoon, it was just a little bit of a joke. It had so many issues with it, its painting wasn't good until it did get the buff. You had to hit so perfectly, and then the Cherry happened. It combined a sub and a special, which were really good, and its kit completely ragged it.
I mean, the Cherry actually painted well, which is one of the reasons, actually.
It got a buff.
You're right, it got buffed, the way it turns, yeah. You're right. Looking at the subs, though, in Splatoon 2, the curling bombs, they seem so bad to me.
Yeah, we could test them in the test fire, and they were strange. Either you throw them in full range, or you just hold and then they explode right in front of you. It's actually pretty hard at the beginning to find out how much you need to hold the button to throw at a specific distance and stuff like that. And also, when you just throw them and they just hit the enemy without exploding, it doesn't do enough damage to kill them, which is also pretty sad.
I think the sub weapon is good for some kind of surprise attacks. Yesterday in the Splatfest, I got a double kill because it bounced back from the wall and got like 2 players who didn't pay attention.
I died once to a curling bomb, and that was on Murray. I didn't see them. They came into the zone and chucked one all the way up, and due to its range, it travelled all the way up and exploded straight onto Snipe. And with me completely not looking to the right, it did get me. So it has its uses.
But is it me or is it counterintuitive? Like, if I thought how to make that sub weapon, I would have it that if you hold more, it goes longer. If you just press it, it goes short. Like, it doesn't go far. Why is it the opposite? It just makes no sense.
I get why
it really does make sense. Because normally you think you have to load it.
Yeah.
So it lasts longer.
Exactly.
I think they're going on the mechanic that it is a set time. This bomb always takes this longer to do, and holding it and pressing the button will let the timer go.
Oh, okay.
I wonder why they decided that, but
we have to find out.
It'll be a sub weapon where it has a high skill cap. If you can work out all the timings in your head, you are able to know how long I hold it to get it to that position that it will explode right there on the zone.
Oh yeah, you're definitely right on that one.
It's gonna have some uses. It's a skill cap. Drop roller feels like an ability which will have its uses, but I know a few people have already pointed out the fact of chucking a bomb. It looks like the Inkling won't roll far enough to get away from a bomb if it's rolled towards the drop position. So even though, as I use Stealth Jump a lot in Splatoon 1...
A lot? You literally used it on the Rapid Blaster!
Yeah.
And not the Charger, that's not a lot, that's too much!
I like the way that I could safely get in, even if I wasn't packing loads of quick respawn. It felt like a good safety net. It allowed me to not worry if the situation was going to change during my jump. It meant I could land in and even just escape. The drop roller looks really fun, and at first I think it will work really well as chargers just continue to do what they normally do and aim straight at the position. But as soon as the meta goes to it, maybe for a little bit, as soon as that happens, people will just revert to only bombs or something like that. So I feel like it'll phase out.
You mentioned the meta actually adapting to the rolling thing you think about Jingy. I actually forgot the name of the ability already because I'm a fraud. But
drop roller.
What do you guys think the meta is gonna look like, at least for the first month? I'm not saying for the first week, because for the first weeks it's obviously gonna be simply just people learning how to play the game, just testing every new weapon they can, putting their hands on new abilities, new gear, new everything, and just getting a general feel of the game. Like, what do you think is gonna be over-centralizing from the very beginning?
The first 3 steps of the meta are pretty clear. First, the Turf War meta, where you can play up to level 10. Then the start ranked meta, that should be until around level 20, where you get Dynamo and Eliter. And then the grind will take some time, and I think in around 2 weeks we should be around level 30, where we unlock the last weapons, and then we can start with decentralizing of the meta. The Fire Fin Splash Charger actually looks pretty good with Splash Roll and Suction Bombs. Like, it's the new Bento, and with the Elite nerf, it's super good. The 96 will come back with Sprinkler and Ink Armor. Dynamo will be super good with the new mechanics. I can even think of stuff like the Aero Spray become a turf weapon for a few teams. The Enzo...
I have the feeling that the Tri-Slosher could become the new face of short-range offense if it's actually used properly.
Yeah, the Tri-Slosher with Burst Bombs and Ink Armor is super good for offensive and defensive play. It can also turf a bit. And we also have like the NZAP with Ink Armor and Suction Bomb that also is good at turfing, has some range, and pseudo invincibility special.
I think also the sloshers and rollers in general, they're going to be extremely strong, especially at the start, because all these maps are already favoring those weapon categories, and until people actually learn how to play those maps properly with the other weapons, I think they're just going to have a nice edge over the opposition.
It's also, what I also think is kind of sad, is that we only have 2 Squid Beacons weapons. So first, the classical Kraken roller, like in the previous game, but instead of Kraken it has Baller this time. so it can still support you. It still has explosion special, and it can put more defensive beacons. And then we have the Double Dualies, so a pretty new weapon with Suction Bomb Launcher and the Squid Beacon, which can place offensive squid beacons, which will be pretty nice.
And I think the Toxic Mist, from at least from what we saw from the E3 event, I don't know, Kiver, just correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was probably good in France as well, in Japan Expo. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously.
It was used at Japan Expo with the Toxic Mist. It was really good against dynamos. For example, I had the dynamo on my team, but on the map, the Rift, you just had to put the disruptor on mid, and the dynamo couldn't do anything. It just had to drop down on left or on the right. But most of the time on left, there were a shooter or a slasher or whatever, something who could kill the dynamo really quickly. So I really think the disruptor is really good against supporter weapons like dynamo.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't know. I think like such bombs in general are really good against it. Like I remember someone tried to disrupt me like several times, and I was just throwing bombs, like burst bombs at this time, and just pailing so he couldn't go for me. He could just behind, just with his teammates. He couldn't do anything. So I really think bombs are really good against such players.
Thank you, Kiver. And with that, we're going to be closing today's episode of this podcast. We hope to see you guys next week when we're going to be discussing even more things after the release of the game itself. So we're going to be giving a hands-on perception of the game. We're going to be messing up words because I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed this and stay fresh, like Crème Fresh. That was a pretty bad rhyme.
Don't get cooked, stay off the hook.
What?
Bam, bam.
On the other hand, one of the abilities I'm really looking forward to, especially with the Splatling, is gonna be respawn. Wait, no, what the fuck am I saying?
Please cut this out, Hanyuu.
Spoke about so much stuff, but still have so many. Fuck, I got it wrong. Crap, guys. Cut Hanyuu, please. Cut. Okay. Just playing the testfire. We cannot. Fuck, Hanyuu cut again. I got messed up. Okay.